Every superhero has a catchphrase. So what are yours? Catchphrases have a way of allowing you to stand out on podcasts. In this episode, we're going to create some catchphrases that'll make you visible and make your brand truly stand out as a reflection of you and your superpowers. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Communication Queens podcast for the visionary leaders, speakers, service providers, and podcasters who are looking to stand out sharing their story. I'm your host, Kimberly Spencer, former screenwriter turned master communications coach. On this podcast, I'll be coaching you on how to share your own transformation story so that you increase your visibility, influence, and income on podcast interviews. Let's get your voice heard.
Hello, and welcome back to the Communication Queen podcast. I am your host, Kimberly Spencer, founder of the Communication Queens agency, where we work with visionaries, leaders, entrepreneurs, and CEOs to get them booked on the right podcasts that build their brand awareness and their bottom line. And through getting them booked on podcasts, one of the things that we teach is helping our clients discover and find their superhero catchphrases. And this can seem super cheesy, so I'm letting you know, I get it. I get the cheesiness, and there is a reason why superheroes have catchphrases. There's a reason. It catches you, it hooks you, and it makes you memorable and makes you something different. So for example, in my bio, I have that I am a warrior for possibility, thus a reflection of my TED Talk, so it circles back, and I am an unsinkable optimist. Now, if you don't know me too well, that can also pique interest. And it's like, unsinkable, what is that? And it's because I've had a 30-year love affair with the Titanic. I have been obsessed with that ship since I was 10 years old. Who knows? Maybe in a past life I was on it. I have no idea. But that ship has so much deep meaning to me, and I use the metaphor of the Titanic in coaching so often for the iceberg, for the subconscious mind. There are so many pieces of the metaphor of the Titanic, of pride, of ego, of hubris. My love for it goes beyond the movie, way beyond, and it's something that grabs people's attention. So here is how to create your catchphrases. So look at the things that make you unique, different, weird, interesting. I know I did a podcast on owning your weirdness and how your weirdness actually should be a part of your brand. So for example, one of my quirks, as we do a word of the day at home and with the homeschooling the kids, and our word of the day was quirk yesterday. And look at, what are those quirks? What are those weird behaviors that you have that are totally different, that are unique, that are special, that are just you? So for example, one of the things that my friend Alicia Barr, who is the host of the Sales is Not a Dirty Word podcast that I've been on, talking all things podcast guesting and how it's a profitable sales and lead generation strategy. But it's an amazing podcast. And when I saw her at PodFest back in January, she constantly introduced me as this is Kim, the queen, who just shows up and dazzles in all her splendor, badass in 6-inch heels as she is. And I love how she framed that, because she is a sales coach, she is an expert sales coach, and she sees the unique possibility of the memorability that comes from certain pieces of branding. So for example, when I go to events, yes, I am probably going to be in 6-inch heels. I love heels, loved them. I am the weirdo who wears them. They feel comfortable for me. It's a weird thing, but it's a unique quirk. Now, how do we translate that into podcasts? How do we translate that into a pitch? How do we translate that into a catchphrase? So it's take a look at all of the weird, unique, funky things about you that make you different and uniquely you. So you could be a hardcore, Christian rock music lover, or you could be a pilot, like one of our clients, Stuart Morris, who's planning his transatlantic solo flight across the Atlantic. That's definitely something that we have leverage as far as language. When we pitch him, there is a lot of flight metaphor inside of his pitches. Why? Because he's a pilot. So look at how can you take some of the qualities. So let's look at the overarching qualities of what makes you uniquely you, and then boil those down into some tangible metaphors, similes. Yes, this is a bit of a grammar lesson that can allow you to have a compact little bite-sized word that is unique and different. So for example, when I go on podcasts and I talk about shifting belief systems and how to change the negative self-limiting stories that we have in our minds, I talk about plagiarized programming. That is a phrase that I've coined. That is a phrase that I've used consistently. That's a phrase that I've had many podcasters be like, you've talked about plagiarized programming, and that is the coolest way of framing it. And I said, yeah, because if you think about plagiarism, because I'm a writer. Like, I have always been a writer. I identify as a writer. I love writing. Writing is my jam. Like language, I love words. So if you think about plagiarism, like in school, you could be kicked out of school for plagiarizing content. So plagiarizing programming, plagiarizing belief systems is the same thing. We have stolen or borrowed other people's belief systems, claimed them as our own, and then now are projecting those as being our own, and they might not even be true. So for example, like the belief system of like, I am not enough, or I'm an imposter, that is all plagiarized programming. It's a belief that you borrowed from somebody who said, oh yeah, you should not feel like enough because I don't feel like enough. And so you mirrored that probably from childhood in the imprint period from the age of 0 to 7. And you mirrored that, adopted that as your own unconsciously. It's not bad or good. You just did. You were a kid. You're not to blame. You just now have the responsibility of choosing, do I want to hang on to this belief system or not? And then you rewrite your own programming. So you give up the plagiarism and you rewrite your own programming. But plagiarized programming is a catchphrase that I have used consistently throughout my coaching as an entrepreneur with the Crown Yourself coaching company. So what are those things that you talk about that are reflective of your own skill set, your own passions, your own belief systems, your own possibility? What are those pieces? So for example, one of our clients, Ashley Chamberlain, who we had on this podcast, I think it was like episode 3, she was amazing. She went from being a domestic violence survivor into creating this phenomenal company, Chamberlain and Good, that is bookkeeping for good. She helps small to mid-sized companies with bookkeeping. And so when we were looking at what made her unique, what made her special, what made her different, we used language that really framed, because her company is called Chamberlain and Good. So we used language that revolves around the goodness of who she is, what she does, and framing things in the overarching metaphor of goodness, because good is a part of her name. It's bookkeeping for good. And so when we pitch her, we are leveraging the power of goodness to deeply tie in to the messaging and to also connect back to the brand. The same is true for another one of our clients, Dr. Tiffany Smith. So in our languaging of our pitches, since she is a functional aromatherapist, psychiatric nurse practitioner, we use language that involves smell and scent because she practices aromatherapy as well as functional medicine and psychiatry and nutrition, all ingrained into her business. So when we pitch her, we use sensory language to showcase the holistic aspect of what it is that she does. One of our former clients, Kala Maxim, who was the founder of Five Senses Tastings, she's since closed that business and started a chocolate dispensary. So fun. But when we were pitching her for Five Senses Tastings, we were using incredibly sensory language because her whole business was revolving around sensory experiences from the visual, musical, auditory, tactile, taste, touch, all of it in how she would create massive corporate events. So look at the pieces that are already built into your business. Like, odds are you probably have some things already baked into your business that make it really special and different and unique. You probably have some bits of your own personal brand, those quirks and funky things. So one of our former clients, Amy Burke, she coined the phrase, the founder's secret weapon. And she uses that because she's just in the back pocket of founders, and she is coined the phrase founder's secret weapon. And so she coaches founders. So it tied back to her coaching with founders. And she just is so poignant that she just doesn't need a lot of time to just find some pieces and transform you and say, okay, well, here's a strategy. Here's what we can put together. And she just connects the dots and like, bam, here you go. Oh my gosh, she's amazing. And I know because she was my coach. So that secret weapon aspect, that we used and leveraged that language to quote unquote weaponize in a loving way her pitches. There is power in what you already have overarching your values. So look at your company values. Look at what is it that you stand for? What are those weird quirks and things that make you unique and interesting and different? And what are some words correlated to those quirks that could make you stand out? So for example, glitter. Like that's one that I've used in Ground Yourself for a long time. Glitter has been deeply ingrained. I love glitter. I'm that weirdo who totally loves glitter. I have some clients who are like, oh my God, no, not glitter. So too much gets everywhere, all in the cracks. But I'm like, I am down for some glitter and sparkles. Like I love a good sequin. And I said in my TED Talk, you know, sequins and sparkles are actually really badass because they have sharp edges. Like they're beautiful to look at, but they also have sharp edges. Like touch a sequin wrong and it'll cut you. So I use that language in framing the warrior, but also bringing humor to the metaphor of being a sparkly badass. Those pieces are ingrained and baked into my business so that when people see it, it's different. It's something that causes people's attention to hook. So I encourage you to look at what catchphrases can you create? What superhero catchphrases based on your quirks and your business's values can you create to support? And this is one where you can get like literally pull out the thesaurus, or if you don't have one that's like a tactile like thing, you just like type in the Google bar thesaurus and look for synonyms that actually resonate with some of the words that you are looking for. So if if you're a writer and you're like, how do I, describe writing? Well, look at writing as a verb, writing as a noun. What are some other ways of sharing writing? How can you share a metaphor of writing your own story as the theme of your about page? Right? See what I did there? Right. So it's about being playful. Playful, fun, having fun with language. This is not an English assignment. Like this is something to have fun with and play with. And if you don't know how to do that, then definitely click the link and get booked on book your 100K profit from guest podcasting planning call with me, and we will happily go over some key cool catchphrases because I've gotten so many just downloaded through me as I'm on these calls with some of y'all. It is amazing, and some of y'all walk away with some awesome catchphrases. So I encourage you to book your call with me, and I am so excited to chat with you and help you develop your super cool catchphrases for your business to pitch you to get booked on the top 5% of podcasts. As always, go out there, stand out, and be heard.
Thank you so much for listening. If you love this episode, subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with your friends. For more tips on guest podcasting, storytelling, and communication strategies, follow us on social media at Communication Queens Agency and visit us at communicationqueens.com. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. And in the meantime, remember, your story has the power to save one life. Let your story and your voice be heard.